My name is Lily Sullivan, currently 32 years old. Throughout a period spanning 15 years, my affluent mother and father utilized me as though I were their domestic help, whereas my junior sibling Sarah existed in a manner befitting nobility. During each festive occasion, during every family event, I found myself confined to the culinary workspace, whilst she played hostess to visitors. However, on the most recent Christmas Eve, when my mother insisted I prepare cuisine for 25 of Sarah's distinguished associates with merely 24 hours advance warning, something within my core reached its breaking point. The events that transpired subsequently didn't merely alter the dynamics within our household. They revealed a confidential matter that rendered everyone, including an executive from a Fortune 500 enterprise, utterly unable to speak. Prior to sharing how I transformed from the household servant to witnessing my mother and father plead for my pardon, kindly pause to provide a like and subscribe, though only if you authentically appreciate narratives concerning fairness being delivered. I would appreciate learning your viewing location and the current hour there. Leave a message in the comments section. I peruse each and every one. At this moment, allow me to transport you to that December night when circumstances transformed entirely. I found myself within my Manhattan residence, meticulously arranging garments into my traveling case when my mobile device chimed. The display indicated Mom, and I possessed foreknowledge that this exchange would prove unpleasant. Within our Connecticut residence, festive ornaments glistened upon each available surface. This knowledge came from personal experience, as I had been responsible for suspending them annually since reaching 17 years of age. Lily, terminate whatever trivial arrangements you've made for the following day, my mother Margaret stated without offering even a greeting. Her vocal tone carried that recognizable authoritative quality that permitted no contradiction. I persisted in folding my professional jacket. What's scheduled for the following day? Sarah is conducting her professional networking assembly for Christmas Eve supper. Exceptionally significant individuals, Lily. 25 attendees featuring administrators from Pinnacle Corporation. She halted momentarily, and I could virtually detect her satisfied expression transmitted through the telephone. You'll require arrival by midday to commence food preparation. 7 primary dishes, 10 accompanying items. The selections have been predetermined. My digits clenched tighter around my mobile device. Sarah's professional networking assembly. Naturally, my junior sister maintained employment in public relations and consistently seized every chance to emphasize her professional connections. Mother, I possess. Your sister's establishing significant professional relationships that provide advantages to this household. You ought to feel thankful to assist. Her statements, wounded as they perpetually had. It's not as though you possess alternative engagements. I directed my gaze toward my portable computer where correspondence from Victoria Chin, Chief Executive Officer of Pinnacle Hospitality, illuminated the display. If my mother only possessed knowledge. Utilize the premium porcelain, she proceeded. These aren't your typical associates, Lily. These are individuals who possess significance. Individuals who possess significance, dissimilar to myself, evidently. I'll transmit the selections, she stated. Don't bring humiliation upon us. The connection terminated. I observed my aviation ticket to Florida. Departure moment, 8 o'clock in the evening the following day. My hand maintained steadiness, currently. Following 15 years of this treatment, I'd ultimately comprehended the distinction between their urgent situation and my precedents. I positioned myself upon my sleeping furniture, recollections flooding inward like an acrid current. 15 years of existing invisibly, excluding occasions when they required assistance. Each Thanksgiving since reaching 17, Lily will manage the culinary duties while Sarah provides entertainment for our visitors. Each Christmas, Lily's situated between employment again, though at minimum she's beneficial in the culinary space. Every family assembly where Sarah received introduction as our accomplished offspring in public relations, whilst I was merely Lily's present too. She's providing assistance. The most recent family celebration had proven the most distressing. Sarah's betrothal festivities, 200 attendees at the country establishment. I had dedicated 14 hours preparing small bites while Sarah commanded attention in a $3,000 garment our mother and father acquired for her. When one attendee inquired regarding my professional activities, my mother had genuinely expressed amusement. Lily doesn't possess Sarah's interpersonal abilities, though she prepares food competently. I elevated myself and approached my wardrobe, extracting my secondary traveling case. Within, meticulously safeguarded in a leather container, existed the agreement that would alter circumstances entirely. My enterprise's designation, Stellar Events, displayed embossed gold lettering at the summit. I'd intentionally selected a designation excluding Sullivan. Throughout 5 years, I'd constructed my domain silently. 50 workers distributed across 3 facilities, a clientele roster featuring upscale establishments and Fortune 500 enterprises. And the following day, whilst my household anticipated my laboring over their cooking appliance, I possessed an appointment that would guarantee a $2 million agreement. My mobile device vibrated. Sarah's message: "Mom indicates you're preparing food the following day. Don't mishandle it. Significant individuals will attend." I examined my aviation ticket once more. Flight 447 to Fort Lauderdale, departing at 8 o'clock in the evening. "Not during this occasion," I murmured to the vacant space. For a single instance, they'd need to determine solutions independently. I possessed an aircraft to board. The contradiction wasn't overlooked by me as I persisted in organizing luggage. 2 unmistakable indicators had demonstrated precisely my position within this household, and I disregarded them excessively long. The initial indicator was their method of presenting me. At the previous month's country establishment supper, my father had literally informed his recreational partner, Sarah's our achievement narrative, "Lily's situated between prospects." Between prospects. I'd finalized a $500,000 agreement that identical morning, though to them, I remained perpetually jobless, perpetually unsuccessful. They never inquired regarding my professional activities, never contemplated how I managed my Manhattan residence or my recent automobile. Their presumption proved so absolute that when I referenced traveling for professional purposes once, my mother had expressed amusement. "What professional activities? Are you designating your minor culinary pastime a profession?" Currently, the secondary indicator proved even more blatant. Previous summer, I'd traveled home to discover my youth sleeping chamber had undergone conversion into a storage space for Sarah's excessive clothing collection. My achievement symbols, my literature, everything marking my presence in that dwelling boxed within the lower level. Sarah required the accommodation. My mother had clarified as though it were self-evident. She's constructing her professional image. Appearance holds significance in public relations. Meanwhile, Sarah had received the complete 3rd level, renovated at her mother and father's financial burden, including a domestic workspace and expansive wardrobe area. The communication proved unmistakably transparent. One offspring represented an investment. The alternative remained invisible. I secured my traveling case, recalling the enterprise festive celebration previous week. My workers had organized an unexpected festivities for obtaining the pinnacle arrangement. 50 individuals who recognized my worth, who honored my guidance. My mobile device illuminated with another message from Mom. "Don't overlook the specialty oil. These individuals possess refined culinary preferences." These individuals, as though I didn't consistently provide catering services for chief executives and prominent personalities. Though why would she possess knowledge? She'd never inquired. The most profound injury was their complete absence of interest. Not a single occasion in 5 years had any household member questioned, Therefore, Lily, what precisely do you perform throughout each day? They fabricated their personal account. Unfortunate Lily cannot maintain stable employment. Resides in a compact residence. It was genuinely a two-chamber condominium, presumably surviving on inherited funds from grandmother. I'd invested that capital into my profession. At minimum, she can prepare food. I employed 3 administrative culinary experts. I retrieved my mobile device and examined my photographic records. There I appeared shaking hands with a municipal leader at a charitable function I'd provided catering for. There existed my collective celebrating our 3rd facility inauguration. There existed the article feature regarding me in hospitality publication, the discreet revolutionary of upscale catering. None of these occasions had been communicated with my household. I'd discovered early that achievement without their authorization proved somehow menacing. The singular occasion I'd referenced obtaining a significant client, my mother had instantly redirected to Sarah's most recent public relations initiative for some beverage product. At minimum, you're beneficial in the culinary space, she'd stated, touching my hand as though I were a youth who'd created a particularly pleasant illustration. I accessed my portable computer and examined my enterprise monitoring system. Stellar events, established without a single cent from my mother and father, constructed without the Sullivan designation, flourishing without their endorsement. The following day's income independently would surpass what Sarah generated in 6 months, though they'd never possessed that knowledge. My administrative assistant had transmitted earlier. Forbes desires to showcase you in their 40 Under 40 publication. They're particularly interested in your narrative of constructing the profession without household assistance. Without household assistance. If Forbes only comprehended the complete situation. My household hadn't merely withheld assistance. They'd been deliberately oblivious to my presence beyond their culinary workspace. If you've encountered feeling invisible within your personal household or been regarded as though your achievement doesn't possess significance, you'll comprehend why I performed what I performed subsequently. Leave a message in the comments section. Have you experienced needing to conceal your accomplishments from detrimental household members? I peruse every message, and it signifies tremendously to understand I'm not isolated in this experience. And if you're discovering worth in this narrative, kindly consider subscribing. We're constructing a collective of individuals who decline to permit others to diminish their brilliance. Currently, allow me to share regarding the text message that altered circumstances entirely. My mobile device vibrated with a scheduling reminder, and actuality struck me like frigid liquid. If I maintained silence and performed the servant role the following day, I'd forfeit everything I'd labored toward. The Pinnacle Hospitality Agreement wasn't merely another transaction. It represented the transaction. $2 million. Exclusive catering privileges to their 5 Florida establishments and a collaboration that would position stellar events on the nationwide landscape. The appointment was December 26th at 9 o'clock in the morning. Non-negotiable. Victoria Chen, Pinnacle's chief executive, had been absolutely transparent. I'm traveling back to Singapore on the 27th. Lily, if we don't complete this personally, the governing body will select our secondary option. Our secondary option, my rival, who'd been pursuing this agreement like a scavenger bird. Though it wasn't exclusively regarding the financial resources. 50 workers were depending on me. Maria, my principal culinary expert, had recently submitted an offer on her initial residence based on the growth this agreement would provide. James, my operations administrator, was arranging to relocate his children to superior educational institutions. This wasn't exclusively my aspiration currently. It belonged to them equally. I accessed my financial institution records. Affirmative. I maintained success, though this agreement would transform circumstances entirely. It represented the distinction between existing as a territorial achievement and becoming a nationwide participant, the category of prospect that materializes singularly in a professional journey. My mobile device chimed. It was my financial executive officer. Lily, merely confirming you'll attend the establishment the following evening for the preliminary appointment supper with Victoria's collective. I'll attend, I stated, observing my organized luggage. Excellent. Victoria particularly referenced she's enthusiastic to encounter the chief executive who constructed such an remarkable enterprise without any household capital or professional relationships. She stated it's unusual to locate that category of genuine achievement. Without household capital or professional relationships, if she only comprehended how accurate that proved. My mobile device signaled with correspondence from my mother. The subject heading, Urgent Christmas Eve Selections. My abdomen experienced discomfort as I accessed it. 7 principal dishes, 10 accompanying items, nutritional limitations for 5 attendees, beverage combinations, confection choices. The degree of specificity proved astonishing. She'd arranged each individual preparation, each decorative element, each presentation vessel, utilized the crystal glassware and the metallic utensils bearing the family insignia, she documented. These are significant individuals, Lily. One among them is Victoria from Pinnacle Corporation. She could prove beneficial for Sarah's professional advancement. I nearly released my mobile device. Victoria Chun was scheduled to attend my mother and father's residence. I rapidly examined the attendee roster my mother had appended. There it existed, transparent as daylight. Victoria Chin, Chief Executive Officer, Pinnacle Hospitality. My cardiac organ accelerated as I absorbed this improbable coincidental occurrence. The identical woman I was encountering in Florida was scheduled to attend my mother and father's residence, anticipating service from their jobless offspring. Another message from Sarah materialized. Mom indicates Victoria Chin will attend. She's prominent in hospitality. I'm anticipating proposing her on public relations assistance. Don't bring shame upon me with your inexperienced culinary preparation. I'd recently provided catering for Victoria's enterprise gathering for 500 individuals previous month, though we'd managed everything through my administrative collective. She'd never encountered me personally. That was arranged for the following day. I positioned myself forcefully upon my sleeping furniture, the burden of the determination overwhelming me. Remain and provide service to the woman who is approaching making me a wealthy individual, masquerading as unsuccessful, or depart and endanger my household's fury, though guarantee my prospects. My transportation notification materialized. Your journey to JFK Aviation Facility is arranged for 6:30 in the evening the following day. I examined the selection list once more, subsequently at my agreement, subsequently at my aviation ticket. The determination had never proven more transparent. I executed my determination. I retrieved my mobile device and contacted my mother's numerical sequence. She responded on the initial signal. Finally, I was commencing to concern you weren't regarding this earnestly. Mother, I cannot perform it. Quietness. Subsequently, her vocal tone transformed acute. What signifies you cannot? I possess a professional journey. I'm traveling to Florida this evening. Don't be absurd. Her vocal tone elevated. What conceivable professional activities could you possess? And significant appointment? She genuinely expressed amusement. Lily, cease being egocentric. Your sister requires this. Sarah possesses a complete catering collective she could employ. With what financial resources? Do you comprehend how costly that proves? I suppressed my response. The contradiction of her inquiring me regarding catering expenses whilst conversing with someone who possessed a catering enterprise proved nearly excessive. Household comes initially, she stated sharply. Or are you excessively egocentric to comprehend that? I comprehend flawlessly. Household comes initially when you require something from me. How dare you? When's the previous occasion you inquired regarding my existence, mother? We possess knowledge regarding your existence. You're situated between employment residing in that minuscule residence. I'm a chief executive officer. Another expression of amusement. This one merciless. A chief executive officer of what? Your fantastical enterprise. It's not fantastical. I possess 50 workers. Lily, adequate with illusions. Sarah requires this. You owe us. I owe you. We nurtured you, provided sustenance, maintained you in our residence, whilst regarding me like contracted assistants. You're being theatrical. What alternative do you possess to perform? Situate in your residence, isolated on Christmas. I examined my premium class ticket. I possess a flight at 8 o'clock in the evening. Terminate it. Negative. If you depart, don't concern yourself with returning. The menace suspended between us, the identical one she'd utilized so numerous occasions previously. Typically it functioned. Typically I surrendered. Subsequently, I presume this is farewell, I stated quietly. You cannot be earnest. I'm completed being the household servant, mother. I'm completed being invisible until you require something. You unappreciative. I terminated the connection. My hands were trembling. Though for the initial occasion in 15 years, it wasn't from apprehension or fury. It was from liberation. My mobile device instantly erupted with messages from Sarah. What did you recently perform? Mother's experiencing a crisis. Cease being so theatrical and arrive here. I deactivated my mobile device and persisted in organizing luggage. They determined solutions. They perpetually did when they possessed necessity. I reactivated my mobile device to establish one matter directly. It chimed instantly. Sarah, what is incorrect with you? She vocalized loudly. Mother's contacting all the relatives, stating you've lost your mental capacity. I possess a professional appointment on Christmas Eve. Cease fabricating. I'm not fabricating. This is regarding that absurd disagreement previous month, isn't it? When Mother allocated me your chamber. My chamber was converted to your wardrobe space years previously, Sarah. And negative, this is regarding my genuine professional path. What professional path? You prepare food occasionally. I possess a catering enterprise. Certainly you do. Her vocal tone contained disparagement. Observe, I'll compensate you to prepare food. House $200. I nearly expressed amusement. My daily compensation for individual culinary expert assistance was $5,000. Not that she'd ever possess knowledge. This is non-negotiable, Sarah. I'm not attending. Mother will repudiate you. That's her determination. You're genuinely going to devastate Christmas? Devastate my professional networking prospect? Victoria Chin will attend. Subsequently employ a caterer on Christmas Eve. Are you mentally unstable? Nobody's accessible. I approached my culinary workspace surface where I'd positioned a writing pad earlier. Upon it, I documented 3 catering enterprises that managed final moment urgent situations along with their 24-hour communication lines. It proved more than they warranted, though I wasn't entirely without compassion. I positioned a notation on my culinary workspace surface with some numerical sequences. I'm not traveling to Manhattan to retrieve your absurd notation. Subsequently utilize internet search for urgent situation catering assistance. You're being egocentric. I'm being professional. My enterprise requires me to journey. What enterprise? She vocalized loudly. Cease masquerading you're something you're not. The transportation notification materialized. Your operator will materialize in 2 hours. I must proceed, Sarah. If you perform this, you're deceased to us. I'm already invisible to you. What's the distinction? I terminated the connection and deactivated my mobile device entirely. On the culinary workspace surface, I positioned the notation with the catering numerical sequences in transparent observation, just in circumstance they somehow materialized by. Adjacent to it, I positioned a duplicate of my professional identification card, the one that stated Lily Sullivan, Chief Executive Officer, Stellar Events. They wouldn't materialize. They wouldn't observe it, though at minimum I'd possess knowledge I attempted to assist, even as I selected myself for the initial occasion. The aircraft elevated from JFK at precisely 8:07 in the evening, and I ultimately released breath. Beneath me, Connecticut disappeared into an unclear mass of illuminations. Somewhere beneath there, my mother was presumably frantically contacting every relative, depicting me as the unappreciative offspring who deserted household on Christmas. I extracted my portable computer and accessed the Pinnacle Agreement one additional occasion. There it existed, provision 15.3. Chief Executive Officer attendance required for all strategic arrangement sessions. Victoria had emphasized on that provision herself, stating she exclusively collaborated with creators who were actively involved. My correspondence container displayed 17 recent communications from Victoria's collective, all verifying the following day's timetable. The preliminary appointment supper at 7:00 in the evening. The official presentation at 9:00 in the morning on the 26th. The agreement execution instantly subsequently pending governing body endorsement. I selected Victoria's most recent correspondence, anticipating ultimately encountering you, personally, Lily. I've been monitoring Stellar Events development for 2 years. Your standing precedes you. My standing. If she only possessed knowledge that the identical woman she was approaching collaboration with was intended to be providing her supper at my mother and father's residence presently. A message from my administrative assistant materialized through the aircraft's wireless connection. Forbes desires to understand if they can reference your household origins in the publication. They're interested in the constructed from initial stages without household assistance perspective. I documented back. Inform them the publication executes December 27th. Accurate? Affirmative, it becomes accessible at midnight on the 26th. Flawless synchronization. By the moment my household comprehended who I genuinely was, the agreement would be executed and the information would be accessible publicly. I accessed the preliminary version of the Forbes publication they'd transmitted for endorsement. The primary heading stated, "From invisible to invaluable, how Lily Sullivan constructed a catering domain without a monetary unit of household capital." The cosmos, it appeared, possessed a perception of amusement regarding synchronization. The Pinnacle establishment accommodation removed my respiration. Surface to elevated barrier transparent panels overlooked the Atlantic, and a container of sparkling beverage awaited on frozen material with a manually documented notation. "Welcome, Miss Sullivan. Anticipating our collaboration. Victoria Chin." I positioned beneath my luggage and examined my mobile device. 47 overlooked communications from my mother, 18 from Sarah, even 3 from my typically silent father. I eliminated the vocal communications without perceiving. Alternatively, I accessed my correspondence to locate something that generated my satisfaction. My public relations administrator had transmitted the ultimate verification of the Forbes publication with a notation. "They've relocated you to the primary feature narrative. It'll exist on every information distribution platform December 27th. The primary feature. My photographic image, professional, assured, nothing resembling the invisible offspring my household possessed knowledge of, would exist on Forbes's primary feature. The publication detailed everything. How I'd commenced with $5,000 preserved from providing table assistance. How I'd constructed the enterprise without financial supporters. How I'd particularly selected to achieve success without utilizing my household's professional relationships. Another correspondence captured my attention from Victoria herself. Lily, I'll be materializing delayed to the following day's supper, materializing directly from a social responsibility in Connecticut. Anticipate, that's acceptable. Connecticut. She was at my mother and father's residence presently, presumably contemplating what a guaranteed elaborate supper was. My administrative assistant messaged once more. The Forbes correspondent desires to understand if you'll reference your household's response to your achievement. I contemplated regarding it. Inform them my household will discover when everyone alternative does. When the publication reaches distribution platforms. That's frigid, supervisor. I appreciate it. I approach the transparent barrier, observing the oceanic movements collide against the coastal area. In 12 hours, I'd execute the most substantial transaction of my professional path. In 36 hours, my countenance would exist on every Forbes publication in the nation. Occasionally, the most effective retaliation isn't retaliation whatsoever. It's achievement they never anticipated materializing. Whilst I rested tranquilly in my Florida accommodation, disorder descended in Connecticut. According to the messages I examined the subsequent morning, the catastrophe had materialized precisely as anticipated. By 6 o'clock in the evening on Christmas Eve, my mother had comprehended I wasn't materializing. The culinary workspace remained pristine and vacant, the refrigeration appliance supplied with exclusively fundamental components, and 25 famished attendees were materializing in an hour. Sarah's distressed messages narrated the narrative. Mother's losing emotional control. She's contacting every dining establishment in a 50-mile perimeter. Everything's terminated. How could you perform this to us? My father had ultimately messaged at 6:45 in the evening. Your mother is experiencing a crisis. Part 3. Kindly reconsider. At 7:00 in the evening, precisely, the attendees had commenced materializing. Financial institution professionals, public relations administrators, and most crucially, Victoria Chin, Chief Executive Officer of Pinnacle Hospitality. They materialized, anticipating an intricate, domestically prepared Christmas Eve supper, the category my mother had expressed pride regarding for multiple weeks. Sarah's message at 7:23 in the evening. We're requesting pizza. Pizza! Lily, do you comprehend what you've performed? At 7:47 in the evening. Mother recently informed everyone you're undependable and perpetually have been. She's attributing blame to you for everything. The pizza had materialized at 8:15 in the evening. 5 containers of Papa John's and 3 from Domino's because one establishment couldn't manage the final moment request. My mother, who dedicated weeks expressing pride regarding her offspring's intricate culinary preparation, was forced to provide delivery pizza on her crystal glassware. Sarah's progressively distressed messages depicted the scenario. Victoria Chin appears repulsed. Individuals are departing. Mother informed everyone you're mentally imbalanced. She stated you've perpetually been the household let down. The final message from Sarah transmitted at 9:33 in the evening. Celebrations terminated. Everyone departed prematurely. Victoria Chen didn't even remain for confection. Mother states, you're deceased to her. I positioned beneath my mobile device and requested accommodation provision breakfast. In 3 hours, I'd be consuming supper with Victoria Chin. I contemplated if she'd reference the catastrophe at my mother and father's residence. I contemplated if she'd identify my surname. Most significantly, I contemplated what my mother's countenance would resemble when she comprehended the actuality. The preliminary supper appointment at Pinnacle Establishment was arranged for 7:00 in the evening. I materialized prematurely, attired in my optimal formal attire, prepared to finalize the transaction of my existence. What I didn't anticipate was Victoria Chen approaching with a narrative to communicate. Lily! She acknowledged me cordially, though she appeared fatigued. I must express regret for being delayed. I recently traveled from the most peculiar Christmas Eve celebration in Connecticut. My cardiac acceleration maintained stability. I'd rehearsed for this occasion. Oh, what transpired? You won't possess belief in this. She positioned herself, oscillating her head. I was invited to what was intended to be a refined supper celebration. The hostess, Margaret Sullivan, genuinely identical surname as you, amusing coincidental occurrence, had guaranteed this intricate cuisine prepared by her offspring. I gestured acknowledgement, stating nothing. We materialized to locate absolute disorder. No sustenance prepared, vacant culinary workspace, and the hostess desperately attempting to request pizza. Pizza? For administrators and enterprise proprietors, she'd been attempting to create favorable impression upon for months. That must have been uncomfortable. It becomes more distressing. She dedicated the complete evening disparaging her elder offspring, designating her undependable, mentally imbalanced, a letdown to the household. Evidently, this offspring was intended to prepare everything, though simply vanished. Victoria extracted her mobile device, displaying me a photographic image someone had captured at the celebration. There existed my mother, countenance colored with humiliation, pizza containers observable on her treasured wooden table. The junior offspring, Sarah, maintained attempting to salvage circumstances, though it was a catastrophe. She genuinely attempted to propose me public relations assistance, whilst providing Papa John's on porcelain dishes valued more than most individuals' residential payment. Did you remain extensively? 20 minutes following the pizza materialization. The hostess was so occupied fabricating justifications and attributing blame to the absent offspring that she neglected to genuinely provide hospitality. It was, Victoria halted, investigating for terminology, the most lacking in professionalism evening I've ever encountered. The woman genuinely stated her offspring was excessively unintelligent to maintain a genuine occupation, so she typically simply prepared food for them. My hands maintained stability on my portfolio. That's dreadful, isn't it? I cannot envision regarding household that manner. Victoria accessed her selection list. Currently, let's examine something more agreeable. Your remarkable enterprise. The subsequent portion is where everything unravels magnificently. If you've been anticipating for the occasion when actuality encounters ramifications, you're approaching being exceptionally satisfied. Though initially, what would you have performed in my circumstance? Would you have disclosed yourself immediately subsequently to Victoria? Or would you have anticipated for an even more flawless occasion? Inform me in the messages section. I appreciate perceiving different viewpoints. And recall, if this narrative connects with you, that subscription control assists us contact others who require to perceive it. Currently, for the occasion that altered absolutely everything. The subsequent morning, December 26th, I positioned in Pinnacle's conference chamber, prepared to demonstrate to Victoria and her collective. The agreement was on the surface. The demonstration was impeccable, and everything was progressing flawlessly until Victoria's administrative assistant approached with a tablet device. Ms. Chin, you require to observe this. There's a photographic image from that Connecticut celebration circulating extensively on professional networking platform. Victoria obtained the tablet device, and I observed her countenance transform from interest to bewilderment to absolute astonishment. She directed her gaze upward at me, subsequently back at the display, subsequently at me once more. Lily, she stated gradually, this photographic image from the Sullivan residence in Connecticut. She rotated the tablet device toward me. Someone had published a household photographic image from my mother and father's barrier, the one from previous Thanksgiving where I positioned in the rear area, scarcely observable while Sarah posed frontal and central with our mother and father. Is this you? I gestured acknowledgement. Affirmative. Sullivan. Margaret Sullivan is your mother. Affirmative. The chamber went entirely silent. Victoria's collective exchanged visual observations. The juridical advisor positioned beneath his writing instrument. The woman who designated you undependable, mentally imbalanced, and unfit for employment is your mother. Affirmative. Victoria elevated herself, approached the transparent barrier, subsequently rotated back to confront me. You were intended to prepare that supper, the one that transformed into a pizza catastrophe. Though I was present encountering with us. I selected my enterprise over being regarded like a servant. Victoria extracted something alternative on her mobile device. Your mother stated you don't possess an occupation, that you're an unsuccessful individual who can exclusively prepare food. She doesn't possess knowledge regarding stellar events. Your personal mother doesn't possess knowledge you're a chief executive officer. She never inquired. Victoria positioned herself substantially. Allow me to comprehend this. Your household possesses no awareness that you operate one of the most accomplished catering enterprises on the eastern coastal region. None. They don't possess knowledge regarding your 50 workers, your 3 facilities, this $2 million agreement we're approaching to execute. They presume I'm unemployed and residing in a compact accommodation. Victoria's enterprise collaborator, James, vocalized, I express regret, though I require clarification. The woman providing pizza on crystal glassware previous evening possesses no awareness her offspring could have provided catering for that complete occasion with 5-star excellence. She's never inquired what I perform for sustenance. She simply presumes I'm unsuccessful. Victoria commenced expressing amusement, not a courteous expression of mild amusement, though genuine, sincere amusement. Oh, my divine entity! She dedicated the complete evening expressing dissatisfaction regarding her letdown of an offspring. And that offspring is you, the chief executive officer I've been attempting to collaborate with for 2 years. She examined her collective. Gentlemen, I presume we're approaching to execute the most intriguing agreement of our professional paths. Victoria extracted her mobile device once more, this occasion accessing internet search platform. I must possess knowledge regarding something, she stated, documenting my designation. The investigation outcomes materialized instantly. Oh, my divine entity! She rotated her mobile device toward her collective. Examine this. The initial outcome was my hospitality publication characteristic. The secondary was the declaration of my culinary excellence recognition nomination. The third was a financial publication composition regarding female enterprise creators. Your household doesn't possess knowledge regarding any of this. Before I could respond, her administrative assistant urgently entered once more. Ms. Chin, you'll desire to observe this. Forbes recently declared their 40 under 40 primary characteristic narrative for the following day. He displayed it onto the conference chamber display. There I existed, professional facial photographic image frontal and central with the primary heading, from invisible to invaluable. How Lily Sullivan constructed a catering domain without a monetary unit of household capital. Victoria examined the preliminary section audibly. Sullivan, 32, constructed stellar events from a $5,000 investment into a multi-million monetary unit enterprise, intentionally avoiding any household relationships or assistance. I desired to demonstrate that achievement doesn't require a renowned surname or household capital, Sullivan declares. She examined me. This becomes accessible the following day at midnight this evening. Your household still doesn't possess knowledge. They will when everyone alternative does. James vocalized lowly. Your mother is approaching to observe her unfit for employment offspring on the primary feature of Forbes. Victoria's administrative assistant was currently examining through the publication preliminary section. It states present you possess a 6-month anticipation roster for occasions. Is that accurate? 8 months for maximum demand period. Victoria elevated herself. I require to execute a telephone contact. She proceeded from the chamber, and we could observe her through the transparent material conversing animatedly on her mobile device. She returned 5 minutes, subsequently with a peculiar expression of satisfaction. I recently contacted Margaret Sullivan. My abdomen descended. You what? I informed her I was exceptionally dissatisfied in previous evening's occasion and that I'd be relocating my enterprise alternative location. She pleaded with me to reconsider, stated it was all her elder offspring's responsibility. Victoria. Subsequently, I informed her I'd recently executed a $2 million agreement with the most gifted enterprise creator I possess knowledge of. She inquired who? I stated, your offspring, Lily Sullivan, Chief Executive Officer of Stellar Events. The chamber was silent. The auditory signal she generated, Victoria persisted, was like all the atmospheric gas had been extracted from her respiratory organs. Subsequently, she terminated the connection on me. My mobile device, which I'd maintained on silent mode, displayed 47 overlooked communications in the previous 3 minutes, all from my mother. Victoria extended her hand across the surface. Ms. Sullivan, let's execute this agreement. I possess belief we possess a collaboration to commemorate. As I documented my designation on the $2 million agreement, my mobile device illuminated with a message from my father. Your mother recently lost consciousness. What the infernal regions is Stellar Events. The agreement was executed, sparkling beverage was distributed, and my mobile device wouldn't cease vibrating. I ultimately excused myself to examine the communications. Mother, respond your mobile device currently. Sarah, is this some category of malicious deception? Father, your mother is experiencing extreme emotional distress. Kindly contact. Sarah, Victoria Chin recently informed everyone you're a chief executive officer? Mother, this is merciless, Lily, masquerading to be accomplished to bring humiliation upon us. I approached back into the conference chamber where Victoria and her collective were still commemorating. My household presumes I'm fabricating regarding being a chief executive officer. Victoria's visual organs gleamed. Would you desire me to transmit them something? Before I could respond, she was capturing a photographic image of me with the executed agreement, the Pinnacle Administrative Collective, and the sparkling beverage. She documented rapidly and activated transmission. I recently published it on professional networking platform, she stated. Identified Stellar Events, Pinnacle Hospitality, and Margaret Sullivan of Connecticut. The publication stated, enthusiastic to declare our 2 million monetary unit collaboration with Stellar Events and their exceptional chief executive officer, Lily Sullivan. Her enterprise's superiority in upscale catering will enhance Pinnacle's visitor encounter across all establishments. Remarkable to collaborate with someone who constructed their domain from initial stages. Within moments, the publication had numerous expressions of approval and responses. Industry pioneers I'd collaborated with for years contributed with expressions of praise. Previous clientele communicated their encounters with Stellar Events. My mobile device chimed. Sarah, I responded on auditory broadcast with Victoria's authorization. This cannot be genuine. Sarah's vocal tone was trembling. It's genuine. You've been a chief executive officer this complete duration? 5 years. Why didn't you inform us? You never inquired. You all presumed I was unsuccessful and regarded me correspondingly. Mother's experiencing a crisis. She's contacting all her associates, attempting to clarify. Everyone observed Victoria's publication. That's not my concern currently. How can you be so emotionally distant? I examined Victoria and her collective, all accomplished professionals who'd never once questioned my value. I'm not emotionally distant, Sarah. I'm completed. I'm completed being invisible until you require a culinary expert. I'm completed being the household let down. I'm completed masquerading to be inferior than I am to generate you comfortable. though we're household. Household doesn't regard each other like servants. Contact me when you're prepared to encounter Lily Sullivan, the Chief Executive Officer, not Lily, the culinary expert. I terminated the connection. Victoria elevated her sparkling beverage container to limitations. We all celebrated, and for the initial occasion in my existence, I experienced genuinely observed. That evening, I ultimately contacted my mother back. She responded before the initial signal completed. How could you perform this to us? She was expressing tears, genuinely expressing tears. Perform what precisely? Bring humiliation upon us. Victoria Chen informed everyone at the country establishment regarding your enterprise. Individuals are contacting, inquiring why we didn't possess knowledge our personal offspring was accomplished. You never inquired regarding my existence, mother. We inquired. We possessed knowledge. You prepared food occasionally. You presumed I was unsuccessful. For 5 years, you've presented me as unemployed. You've never once inquired regarding my professional activities, my residence, my existence. You ought to have informed us. I attempted. Recall 3 years previously when I referenced obtaining a significant client? You instantly commenced conversing regarding Sarah's public relations initiative for a beverage product. You literally stated, "That's agreeable, beloved, though Sarah's professional activities is genuinely progressing successfully." Quietness. I positioned catering numerical sequences on my workspace surface. I persisted tranquilly. You could have preserved the celebration. We don't possess access devices to your residence. You've never inquired to observe my residence. You don't even possess knowledge where I reside. That's not, mother. I employ 50 individuals. I possess 3 facilities. I've been showcased in multiple publications. I was designated for a culinary superiority recognition, and you presumed I was unemployed because that was more convenient than genuinely observing me. We're your household. My household requires a servant. My enterprise requires a chief executive officer. I selected my enterprise. This is regarding spite. Negative, mother. This is regarding individual dignity. I've constructed something remarkable, and I performed it without any of you. Not your capital, not your professional relationships, not even your conviction in me. What do you desire from us? Nothing currently. That's the significance. For the initial occasion in my existence, I require absolutely nothing from you. Lily. The Forbes publication materializes at midnight. You might desire to prepare yourself. It details precisely how I constructed my enterprise without household assistance. You informed Forbes regarding us. I informed Forbes my actuality. If that brings humiliation upon you, perhaps you ought to contemplate regarding why. I perceived my father's vocal tone in the rear area. Margaret, perhaps we ought to perceive. I'm completed perceiving. My mother stated sharply at him. Subsequently to me, you've devastated this household. Negative, mother. I've ultimately constructed my personal existence. Contact me when you're prepared to be portion of it, as equivalents, not as superior and servant. I terminated the connection gently, experiencing more unburdened than I possessed in years. The social ramifications materialized rapid and severe, though not for me. Within 48 hours of Victoria's professional networking platform publication, my household's meticulously arranged standing had disintegrated. The country establishment communication system was functioning excessively, and Sarah's distressed messages narrated the narrative. Pinnacle recently terminated our public relations agreement. Victoria Chen stated they don't collaborate with individuals who lack household principles. That was a $500,000 annual deficit for Sarah's organization. Mother got eliminated from the charitable governing body. They stated it was unrelated, though everyone possesses knowledge. Father's recreational associates are inquiring him how he didn't possess knowledge his personal offspring was a wealthy individual. The Forbes publication had circulated extensively in our Connecticut social sphere. The primary heading independently, constructed without a monetary unit of household capital, was condemnatory adequately, though the statement that genuinely devastated them was concealed in Section 3. My household presumed I was unemployed. It was more convenient to construct a domain in quietness than to combat their presumptions. My father ultimately contacted me directly, something he hadn't performed in years. Lily, I required to state something. I anticipated. I possessed knowledge you were performing something with catering. I observed the enterprise registration years, previously when postal correspondence got confused, though your mother was so absolute regarding who you were intended to be. I ought to have vocalized. I'm experiencing shame. It was the most sincere statement he'd communicated to me in 15 years. Why didn't you? I inquired, because it was more convenient to permit her narrative remain than to combat it. I observe currently that generated me participating. Your achievement is extraordinary, and we overlooked it because we weren't examining. Father, your mother's forfeited 3 charitable positions. Sarah's organization is losing clientele rapidly. Everyone desires to possess knowledge how we could regard our accomplished offspring like contracted assistants, whilst expressing praise for Sarah for mediocre public relations professional activities. I never desired to injure anyone. You didn't injure us, Lily. We injured ourselves. We fabricated a narrative where you were the unsuccessful individual and Sarah was the achievement. And currently everyone can observe we were sightless. He halted. That pizza catastrophe is already country establishment narrative. Margaret Sullivan, who expressed pride regarding her providing hospitality for years, providing Papa John's on crystal glassware, whilst her chief executive officer offspring was executing monetary unit agreements. Despite everything, I experienced a sensation of compassion. Father, I don't express regret. We acquired this, every individual ramification. Whilst my household confronted with their social catastrophe, my existence erupted in the optimal, conceivable manner. The Forbes publication had featured a photographic image of me at the pinnacle execution, sparkling beverage in hand, encompassed by administrators who valued my professional activities. The distinction to my household's Thanksgiving photographic image, where I remained in the rear area like contracted assistants, wasn't overlooked on anyone. Within a week of publication, Stellar Events obtained over 200 inquiries. Premium clientele who'd been uncertain suddenly desired to collaborate with the chief executive officer who constructed a domain from initial stages. My correspondence container was saturated with interview solicitations, verbal presentation commitments, and collaboration suggestions. Victoria Chin became my most significant advocate. She presented me to her professional system, communicating everyone the narrative of the Christmas Eve catastrophe with scarcely concealed satisfaction. Envision, she'd state, possessing a valuable asset in your residence and regarding it like a servant avian creature. 3 substantial agreements materialized from those presentations independently, valued a combined 10 million monetary units. I contracted 20 recent workers to manage the expansion, elevating Maria to administrative culinary expert and James to principal operating administrator. During our expansion appointment, Maria stated something that remained with me. You possess knowledge, what I appreciate most regarding this enterprise. You constructed it for individuals who were disregarded. Half of us were informed we'd never achieve anything. She was accurate. I'd unconsciously contracted individuals like me, gifted individuals who'd been dismissed, disregarded, or assessed beneath their value. My administrative assistant transmitted me a message from a correspondent. Your narrative is everywhere. Culinary Network desires to examine a documentary. Functioning designation, invisible to invaluable, the Lily Sullivan narrative. though the optimal occasion materialized when I obtained an invitation to vocalize at Cornell's Institution of Hospitality Administration. My aspiration educational establishment, the one my mother and father had stated, was excessively ambitious for me. The subject: constructing achievement without authorization, fabricating your personal path in hospitality. As I examined my verbal presentation documentation, my mobile device vibrated with a message from my mother. "We require to converse. Kindly." I examined it for an extensive occasion. Subsequently, I preserved it and proceeded back to arranging my prospects. Achievement, I'd comprehended, was the optimal response to disrespect. Though limitations were the optimal contribution I could allocate myself. 3 months subsequently, I consented to encounter my household at an impartial facility, a tranquil dining establishment in Manhattan, my territory. They appeared different, more diminutive, somehow. My mother had forfeited her commanding quality, Sarah her self-satisfaction, and my father appeared to have matured years. "Before anyone vocalizes," I stated, positioning beneath an individual sheet of material, "these are my conditions." They inclined to examine. 1. Equivalent dignity, or no contact. 2. No more servant regard ever. 3. Accessible acknowledgement of my achievement. 4. Sincere expression of regret, not simply terminology. 5. Psychological treatment, household and individual. "This is non-negotiable," I persisted. "I'll be your offspring, not your servant. Your sibling, not your personnel. Those are my conditions." My mother's visual organs saturated with tears. "Lily, we've forfeited everything. My standing. Sarah's clientele. That's not my obligation, Mother. We possess knowledge." My father interrupted. "We're not present to attribute blame to you. We're present to request for a secondary prospect." Sarah vocalized for the initial occasion. I was experiencing envy. "You were perpetually superior at everything." The mother generated me experience, significant, by generating you experience, diminutive. I observe how distorted that was currently. It was the most sincere she'd been in years. "I attend psychological treatment currently," she appended quietly. The psychological specialist states we fabricated a household structure where someone was required to be the attribution target for everyone alternative to experience accomplished. You were allocated that function before you could even combat it. My mother contacted across the surface, though didn't contact me. I'm expressing regret, not simply for Christmas Eve, though for 15 years of sightlessness. I transformed you into a servant because I couldn't tolerate that you might be more accomplished than the existence I'd arranged for you. I examined each of them. I'll consider it, though possess knowledge this. I'm not materializing back to the identical household. If we reconstruct, it's as equivalents. They gestured acknowledgement. And Mother, you're compensating complete value if you ever desire stellar events to provide catering for anything. For the initial occasion in months, she genuinely expressed satisfaction. Equitable. 6 months subsequently, I accommodated my initial household supper in my genuine residence, the 2-chamber condominium with a visual observation of Central Park that they'd never possessed knowledge existed. My collective from stellar events provided catering for it because I know extended prepared food for household assemblies. That was a limitation I'd never traverse once more, as my mother and father and Sarah positioned at my dining surface, being provided service by my workers who designated me supervisor. The function inversion wasn't overlooked on anyone, though this wasn't regarding retaliation. It was regarding actuality. "I desire to be transparent regarding something," I stated, elevating my container of fermented grape beverage. Achievement doesn't require authorization. Individual value doesn't require confirmation. And dignity is non-compromisable. My mother gestured acknowledgement. She'd been attending psychological treatment for 4 months and had openly expressed regret at the country establishment, acknowledging she'd been sightless to my accomplishment. It didn't restore her standing, though it commenced to restore our connection. Sarah's public relations organization had transformed direction, and she'd inquired professionally, modestly, if Stellar Events might evaluate her for our public relations requirements. I'd informed her to present a suggestion, like everyone, alternative. She performed, and it was satisfactory. We were evaluating it. My father had become my unanticipated supporter, ultimately locating his vocal expression following years of quietness. He currently presented me as my offspring, the chief executive officer, with sincere satisfaction, though the most substantial transformation was within me. I no extended, concealed my accomplishment, or reduced my brilliance to generate others comfortable. My enterprise had expanded to 100 workers with facilities in 5 municipalities. The Culinary Network documentary had transmitted to exceptional praise, and every individual morning I examined in the reflective surface and reminded myself, I'm Lily Sullivan, Chief Executive Officer of Stellar Events, not the household servant. Never once more. Your significance doesn't diminish based on someone's incapacity to observe your value. Recall that. Gratitude for accompanying me on this progression from invisible to invaluable. If my narrative connected with you, I'd appreciate to perceive regarding a moment when you were required to select yourself over household anticipations. Position a message beneath. Your narrative might be precisely what someone alternative requires to perceive this day. If you possess conviction everyone warrants dignity regardless of their function, kindly communicate this visual content with someone who requires to perceive it. Register for additional narratives regarding individuals who decline to remain diminutive. Recall, you're not required to ignite yourself to maintain others heated. Until subsequent occasion, this is Lily reminding you to possess knowledge of your value and subsequently append additional compensation.